I love today's news because this is the only scenario that I think keeps the 49ers as a top tier Super Bowl 59 contender. They're if you took him away and gave them draft picks, would they be a Super Bowl contender? Yeah, but not in that top tier. I think they would drop a tier. If you gave them James Daniels and Nick Herbig, who are decent football players, I like both those guys. If you'd given them those guys, would the Niners be Super Bowl contenders? Well, they might be sort of, but they wouldn't be as serious a contenders as they are with Aiyuk. So, in my opinion, just the fact that he's back, if you're a 49er fan, I think this is the best scenario, even though it was like the worst trip to the dentist times 15.
Yeah, I mean, George Kittle once called the contract negotiations with the 49ers putting on braces. This is headgear, maybe some leg gear. I mean, this was beyond braces. They were doing some major reconstructive surgery on this one. And frankly, it feels as if Aiyuk was the one initiating a lot of the pain and the suffering. This thing remained weird all the way to the end. Now, if we're going to do some mea culpas here, I was firmly under the impression this week, up until the second the news came across the timeline today, I was firmly under the impression, talking to folks, Niners around the league, that they were going to make him play on the 5th-year option, that they were just done negotiating. And in a way, the Niners were. Now, I don't really know what to read into the Adam Schefter report, where this deal has been on the table since August 10th or 12th or wherever. So that for the last 3 weeks have been all for naught. Like, it's just been fun. I don't know. It's a bit. I don't know what the hell we've been doing the last 3 weeks. Credit to the Niners for keeping it under wraps that this contract was out there and available. But
yeah, we should probably lay that out for people who don't know what Schefter tweeted. Schefter said, in the end, Brandon Aiyuk accepted the same deal that has been on the table since August the 10th, per league sources. His hold-in did not alter any part of the new 4-year, $120 million extension. He took the same deal that had been there for the past 3 weeks, hold in over. Okay. I think this is disingenuous, to be completely honest, because I mean, Kevin and I talked about this just a half hour ago. When, if you look at the date that Aiyuk, started his hold in, he was holding in for a while, a number of days there. Before the Niners.
Yeah, I mean, he's held in for a month.
Yeah, he held in for a month before the 49ers made their last ditch offer. So this idea that, like, oh yeah, it's all on Aiyuk, or like his whole, like, it seemed like Schefter is spinning news for the Niners, because immediately it was like, you know what, Brandon Aiyuk's hold-in netted him $0, and that's not necessarily true, because he started holding in of 3-4 weeks before the Niners made their offer on August the 10th, right? So that his hold in absolutely could have been directly related to dialing up pressure on them and having them increase their offer. He's making it seem like, hey, this big hold in was all about nothing and the Niners won and Aiyuk lost. Well, okay, I guess you could argue that, but their biggest and final offer that got it done, the deal, the offer that he ultimately signed for, came after the hold in, not before.
Halfway through.
So what are we talking about?
The way through.
So what are we talking about? So you can't sit there and say, Schefter can't say it. Nobody else can say it either. You can't say that his hold in was a loss and that he didn't get anything out of his hold in. He got the best offer from the Niners after he began holding in.
Oh, and after they allowed him to shop his services around to the entire NFL, figuring out exactly what his market was from the Patriots and the Browns and the Steelers. I mean, that's what really drove the number up, if we're being honest. And that doesn't happen unless he's making a stink with the hold in And then the 49ers go, you know what? We're so sick of you right now. Just go out and figure something else out. And we'll trade you if you find something. And he made this very uncomfortable all the way to the end. And honestly, if this deal had been sitting on the table since August 12th, what the hell was John Lynch talking about yesterday? Sometimes you got to just play. Sometimes you got to do this. I don't understand the time frame here, Larry. If we're using Schefter's tweet, which is clearly just coming from Lynch,
I'm missing the point on that. Maybe
so
I'm not.
John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan go to the dais yesterday at Levi's Stadium,
right?
And they're pissy, right? They're pissy about the Brandon Aiyuk situation.
Well, they just look run down. I mean, they look beat down by.
And I can't blame them. That's where Brandon Aiyuk wanted them. Maybe that's how he got it done finally. But if you have an offer on the table, and by the way, the notion that this all got hammered out and finalized today is equally laughable. These are this has to be something you're working on a lot throughout the week. So to go up to the dais and be like, you know what, we expect him to practice, we expect him to do all this. Why would you bother saying that? Why would you bother going through all these hoops, all this public nonsense, if you know, hey,
we're on the verge of getting it done?
We're getting pretty close. Why would you throw this guy under the bus less than 24 hours before you sign a new deal with them? The whole thing was strange all the way up to the end.
What's really clear to me, at least, and maybe I'm reading this right, maybe I'm not. This is my take on it.
We're all skittish about this now. We're so skittish.
This is my take. The relationship is clearly strained.
Oh, yeah.
But both sides know that they have an appreciation for the other. I think Aiyuk has an appreciation for the offense that he's in, especially after watching the Pittsburgh Steelers up close this summer. Mm-hmm. I think the 49ers probably have an appreciation for, the value of Aiyuk when they see, how badly they looked at Pearsall. Pearsall looks like a nice player, but I mean, Pearsall can't get out of the blue practice jersey.
That's right.
I mean, we're supposed
to wear in a different color. That's probably not conducive to a season of.
Yeah, buddy of mine called me the other day
on a Super Bowl contender.
He's like, Krug, just tell me right now. Close your eyes. What does Ricky Pearsall look like? So I close my eyes and I'm like, he looks like a ram. He's like, he looks like a ram. He looks like Puka. No, he's wearing blue jersey every day. He looks like a freaking ram. He's like, oh, stop fucking with me, man.
Yeah. How about a Colt?
No. Yeah, he looks like an Indianapolis Colt.
The Houston Oilers, a little bit darker than that.
Yeah, a little darker than the Oilers.
I'm with you. Listen, I'm stunned. Legitimately, I was stunned that the 49ers went up to 30, right? Because that is a 25% markup from what they offered him at the start of the offseason. And Brandon Aiyuk has played literally 0 days of football between the first offer and the offer that he ultimately signed. I'm stunned that the 49ers acquiesced to pretty much everything he wanted, which was, I want to get paid $30 million a year. I want to be on the San Francisco 49ers, and I want you to tell me you love me about every 5 or 6 days. And he got all of those things. He got all of the attention he was seeking. He won. He won in every single department. And all the credit in the world to the guy. I still think that it was all rather debasing and embarrassing, and it's going to be hard to forget all of it. Not that it matters. He's so rich, he doesn't have to actually integrate with us peons anymore. But I'm sure this is going to knock him up into a different tax bracket. Regardless, I cannot believe that the Niners caved in so much, given all of the back channel stuff that we were hearing about how they were really going to play hardball and how Brandon wasn't a top-of-the-line player that deserves to be paid top-of-the-line money, and that they could figure out a way to make this work without him or with him on the fifth-year option, but that they were playing hardball and that money was going to be tight and that they were just not going to pay a premium for a player that wasn't, in their eyes, a premium player. A great player, but not a premium player. And then here they are today, before, by the way, they re-signed the premium player that they need to re-sign. But here they are today saying, actually, Brandon, you know what? Everything you want, just take it. Just take it. John Lynch rolled over on this one. I don't care personally, but I do think it needs to be noted. It's not my money. We're not the ones buying beer at Levi's Stadium. We're not the ones getting price gouged with the season tickets. Like, it's not our problem because we're in the media. And I don't know if anyone will notice. And if they keep winning, who the hell cares? But man, it's pretty embarrassing for the 49ers front office. They've gotten rolled now a couple times in a row. And for a team that has a reputation, not just internally, but externally, of being really shrewd, really sharp negotiators, I don't think you can maintain that anymore because Aiyuk ran over him. Christian McCaffrey said, I want a new contract. And Bosa. They said, yes, sir. And then Bosa worked him like he was a second string left tackle. So,
well, you know what was the weird part about this too? Well, Purdy's going to get his money. Purdy's going to get, $60 million. You know what's also weird? It's weird that they not only did they cave, but they still drove this thing all the way to the end. I mean, they caved at the end and gave him a ton of money. Though, you know what? I don't think it's offensive to pay Brandon Aiyuk $30 million. I know there are other people that do find that offensive. I don't. I mean, look at who are the other receivers making $30 million? I mean,
he makes as much
in the list. He's under
now.
He's under. Yeah. So, okay. So he's right there. He's right where I think he should be. If you said to me, what is Brandon Aiyuk as far as an NFL receiver? Let's just keep this real simple. What is he as an NFL receiver? Is he the best? No, he's not.
No.
Jefferson's the best, or Chase is the best, or Tyreek's the best. Those are the best. So those three guys are better. And is he the next best guy? Probably not. He's probably more like 3 or 4 down the list.
He's tier 3, which is very, very good.
10. He's a top 10 NFL receiver, and who's in a pass-oriented offense. So his numbers are a little bit deceiving. And he's a really, really good blocker, and he's kind of an underrated player because he plays a lot.
Agree.
He doesn't get hurt. So I just think that you look at what he is, and okay, so I think now this salary puts him 6th. Is that
tied for 5th?
Spot? Okay, tied for 5th. Is that a spot or two high? Sure. It's not offensive though. It's pretty much his ballpark. I got no problem with that. Well, you're going to pay him 5th. You're going to pay him in the top 5, and he's really more like 8th or 9th or 7th or something like that. That's fine.
I get that.
I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that. And the reason for I'm okay with paying him is just because you did things that suppressed his numbers that he didn't have anything to do about. I mean, he didn't draft himself into this offense, and he didn't add McCaffrey and all these other weapons, and he didn't decide to run the ball the most and pass the ball the least, and he didn't decide to play the 28th slowest pace. These are all things that are all Shanahan decided. So he's operating within that, and within that, he's been really, really productive to the point where you could argue he's one of the most efficient downfield receivers in the league. And he blocks, and he's tough. So, you know what? If you pay him, as the 5th rated receiver, and he's really more like 8, whatever. I don't care.
Well, and Larry, I have no problem with Brandon Aiyuk I have no problem with anybody getting paid. My issue would be if I had to, get down to brass tacks and nitpick a little bit here. My issue is with the 49ers paying him, given that they're not in a position to overpay anybody, even by a cent anymore. Not with Brock Purdy's contract coming down the line, not when you already have premium salaries for premium players on the books that you can't really get off of.
Okay, but let's play the game then. Let's play the game. Let's just say that today's signing, because that's the thing. Every signing has to be reported at this point with the implications of the signing. So the signing is great. The implication of the signing is that you won't be able to sign Banks or Lenore or Mooney, or maybe you might have those top 3 free agents. You probably are only going to be able to pay one, and you're going to have to tell the other 2 guys.
Probably gone too.
Yeah, and Debo's probably gone. But like, if you ask me that question, I like some of the things they've done with Pooney and some of the offensive linemen they've added. I like some of the corner depth they've added with, Luter and Renardo Green. So I don't know. I'm not as offended by, I'd rather have Aiyuk than sign up for another 3 or 4 year deal for Mooney. I'd rather go with the younger corners. I'd rather sign up. I'd rather have Aiyuk, a perimeter guy, than sign up for more of Banks, especially if Banks has more concussions this year. So I don't know. To me, it's like I think
that's fair.
They fortified themselves in some other areas. I think in the NFL, the quarterback matters a ton. The left tackle matters a ton. The right tackle matters a ton. Your nickel corner matters a ton. Your pass rushers matter a ton. Your corners matter a ton. Your perimeter guys in this pass-happy league matter a lot. So if you have a dominant Patrick Surtain, or you got a dominant receiver, I think when you're dominating on the perimeter, you want to keep those guys, because that's not about scheme. That's about talent. That's about ass.
But let's talk about markets, because I think that this proves the point that I've been trying to make again and again, which is that wide receiver is a bubble, and that at some point this thing's going to burst the same way that running back has burst, save for a Christian McCaffrey. And when you're hitting Brandon Aiyuk, who is unquestionably an outstanding player, but not an elite player, not by the strict definition of elite. He's not a first-team All-Pro. He's not a guy who catches 100 balls a year. Now, is he limited by the offense? Sure, but I'm not going to operate in the conceptual. I'm going to operate in the here and now. This is not a guy who's anywhere near the level of a Tyreek Hill. He's not on the level of a CeeDee Lamb or an Amon-Ra St. Brown when it comes to production. He's not the same player as a Justin Jefferson or an A.J. Brown. He's a tier lower, maybe two. And now he is in the same ballpark fiscally as those guys. And all the credit in the world to him, because the market said when the New England Patriots and the Browns and whomever else got involved, they said, we will pay you this. And he said, I don't want to play for you. So the market is infallible in this regard. But when you're the 49ers and you're thinking to yourself, man, we're going to have to lose now maybe two top corners. We're going to have to lose someone on the offensive line. We're not going to be able to keep Deebo Samuel around. There might be somebody else. Now we might have to cut somebody and eat a bunch of dead money just so that we're salary cap compliant, because Brock Purdy doesn't just get a little bit on and then the extension kicks in. His salary goes up 20x minimum starting next year. And you front-loaded this Aiyuk contract. You mentioned that the perimeter players are vitally important. I agree with you, Larry. The problem is the only players in the college game that are anything close to plug and play these days are the perimeter guys. That's the only thing that the college game is producing at a high level right now. Wide receivers and cornerbacks. Those are the areas where you can really load up. And if you're aggressive and forward thinking like the Niners have been in getting a Renardo Green, who you don't really need this year, but you're going to need sure as hell next year. Or you get a Ricky Pearsall and a Jacob Cowing, who you don't really need this year, but you're sure as hell going to need next year when one of your receivers is out. If you can stay on the wheel on this thing and be a year ahead, as opposed to constantly drafting for need, you can always replenish. And I'm not saying any of these guys are going to turn into Brandon Aiyuk or anybody's going to turn into Charvarius Ward or Diamador Lenore. But those are the positions that you should feel most comfortable about drafting and replenishing your talent from the college ranks, because it is hard as fuck to find a tackle. It is hard as hell to find a good defensive tackle at the college level right now. It is really hard to find a good free safety. All they do is play Palms cover 4 coverage. I mean, it's laughable what they do. It's so different than the NFL game. And you end up in a situation where you have to look at what the market says. And the market says we're going to pay all these wide receivers top dollar at the same time that I would argue they're most replaceable. And the 49ers just strictly, I don't think this can be debated at all, overpaid Brandon Aiyuk. And if you want to know how much they overpaid him by, it's 25%. They offered him 23 at the beginning of the offseason, and they just paid him 30. He didn't do anything but make their lives uncomfortable and let a bunch of other dudes sign contracts. I have no problem with it, but they're going to have some real ramifications on this thing down the line. And I'm not sure we can say it was a good move or a bad move right now, because we don't know what the full ramifications are going to be. And they could be dire and serious for this team in 25, 26, and 27. So you sure shit better win the Super Bowl in 24.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that this signing is the best move that they could make for 2024 49ers. Yeah. Doesn't mean it's the right move or the best move for 2025 or years beyond. But for 2024, if you really think about it, let's just roll down the options. Aiyuk is a Steeler, and you get a couple picks.
That ain't great.
Obviously, the picks wouldn't help you. That's a loss.
Yeah.
Aiyuk's a Commander. You get a couple picks. Obviously, that's a loss. Aiyuk's a Steeler, and you get a couple picks, and now Denver gives you Cortland Sutton. I think that's a loss.
It is a loss, yeah.
If you got James Daniels and Nick Herbig, I think that's a loss. If you got a nice pick and Luke McCaffrey, I think that's a loss.
That's a big.
I mean,
loss.
Really,
if you had
all
Amari
the Patriots
Cooper,
deals,
if we
Amari
had Amari
Cooper and picks,
it's a loss, but it's a close loss. It's a close
but
loss.
I
You
don't-
can
I
justify that one.
I don't like him. First of all, I think
It doesn't matter now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter now. But I mean, here's the thing: how many years of prime do you have in the NFL? 6 or 7? Well, Amari Cooper's 30, and Ayuk's 26.
But
So he's already 4 years older. You're going to give away 4 years, 4 years of prime, though?
No,
You give
you're
away
getting,
4
you're
years of
getting
prime?
1 year of Amari Cooper in the salary cap
No, I know.
flexibility moving forward. But again, this is water under the bridge. It's the best move unquestionably for the short term, because you could have also had Brandon Aiyuk play on the 5th-year option, and then you have him already somebody who has been having a really easy time making things really uncomfortable. Then he has no reason to make anybody comfortable the entire season. Now he has all the incentive in the world.
What do you think that experience would be like if they had said, you know what, screw it, we're disgusted,
The same. T.
You know,
Higgins had a great year.
you've seen parents who discipline their kids sometimes, and they'll take this like, that's it. I get to my breaking point, and then I'm going to do something totally illogical. Right?
I know nothing about.
So it's like,
Larry.
I can remember a couple parents as kids. It's like, the phone rang, and who's there? You're getting cranked, and then mom or dad say, that's it. We're not answering the phone the rest of the night.
Yeah.
Why, Dad? I might actually have an important call coming in. Nope. We're not answering the phone the rest of the night. I
might have had a moment like that this afternoon.
Sometimes
I get it. I get it. And honestly, I wouldn't have blamed the 49ers for that. And to be full disclosure, I thought that's where they were at going up until like 3 p.m. today. I thought they're like, we're fucking over this. We're done. We're not dealing with this anymore. You're playing on the 5th-year option. At some point, you have to play, was the line, right? So we're just going to play on the 5th-year option. And it's going to be in everyone's best interest to totally ball out, and we'll figure it out on the back end. And we'll probably franchise tag you and then trade you, and you'll be a Pittsburgh Steeler eventually, and someone's going to pay you. And I thought that's how they were going to do it. And here's how I think that would have gone.
And it was so much in their best interest to do it that way. Why do you think they didn't?
I don't know. I mean, because it would have been uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It would have been uncomfortable for a couple of weeks. And then everyone would have kind of forgotten.
I think they worried about losing control.
By totally rolling over? I mean, that's what they did.
No, I'm just saying losing control because, the locker room's a living, breathing organism. And pretty soon, I don't know, maybe Trent Williams has an opinion on it. Maybe George Kittle has an opinion on it.
Well,
maybe a poll question comes up and somebody opinion. Yeah, but I'm saying somebody's going to voice an opinion in the media, and then people are going to throw a mic in front of these other guys, and you're going to lose control, and it's become a gigantic thing.
We talked about it, Larry.
You don't have control over the room.
Yeah, we noted that they kept the locker room closed until today. That should have told us everything. They let the locker room open today. The deal's done. Locker room's
by the way, they capped the time today too. They're like, yeah, we'll tell you guys when you can go in. It's like, okay. I love when they open up the locker room.
Oh yeah, I mean it's an important part of our job.
Oh, it's the best. And today I talked to Malik Mustafa, Drake Nugent, Nick Zakel, got nice extensive sit downs with all those guys that will appear shortly on Niners Nightly, which you can hear on KBR 680 starting on Monday.
Man. Always selling.
Look at me.
You should have been Brandon Aiyuk's agent. He would have gotten the same money and it would have been a lot less messy.